Hello everyone, my name is Deloaded, and for the last 10 years I've run the same Minecraft group. This is the story of how I went from building this humble village in 2013 to running one of 2B2T's most well-known and powerful groups, and the longest running group in the history of Minecraft. This is the story of DonFuer. It all began when I joined a small faction server called Destructo Craft, which was owned by my friend Ben. This time period is characterized by petty faction-style drama, with players switching sides constantly. Part of the reason we actually kept calling the bases DonFuer was just out of defiance to the griefers during this time period. And as we began building our first base together, Ben would tell me about a group of players that we'll be calling the Highwaymen, who had taken over his old city. Our on and off war with the Highwaymen would destroy most of the early DonFuers. Occasionally, Ben would switch sides or even admin abuse. We would fight each other over DonFuer 3, and the city was destroyed in the process. Eventually, the admin abuse got to be too much, and I decided to start building DonFuer on a new server for the first time. This begins the Great Migration. I played on 2 different servers during this time, and crazily enough, the Highwaymen followed me to both. They destroyed DonFuer 7, so I switched servers again to build DonFuer 8. But on this new server, I was ready. They had made me the head builder on this server. I was on the staff team. So using the power of admin abuse, I created the DonFurian Hitting Rod, a powerful instant kill blaze rod that I used to finally ambush and defeat the Highwaymen and win the war. Months later, the server ran out of money, and I decided I needed to take a break. During the summer after I graduated high school, I decided to get back into Minecraft and build one final DonFuer before going off to college. Little did I know that this was only the beginning of the first golden age. I logged into a faction server called Mozart Realms, where I would meet Hermeticlock, and together we would become the most powerful force on the server. We built DonFuer 9 together. There are so many stories from this time. Me and Hermeticlock versus the rest of the server. We fought a lot of battles, but eventually we got banned. This led Hermeticlock to start his own server called Anarchy Heroes. We would paste the DonFuer 9 world download in here, and for the next 3 years, this server would act as kind of a home base for DonFuer, a place we could always return to after playing on other servers. But right around the time that Anarchy Heroes was really taking off, Hermeticlock had his eyes on a new server, 2B2T. And in December of 2016, he finally convinced me to join with him to build DonFuer 10. This base is very historic. It lasted only a month, but it would be covered by Baron Dome, one of the largest YouTubers on the server at the time. This was a historic launching off point for both DonFuer and Hermeticlock, who would later go on to start the Spawn Masons. After DonFuer 10, I left 2B2T for several months, and I got embroiled in a war on Anarchy Heroes, which began with the destruction of DonFuer 9, and ended with myself, Wygood, and Lorscat destroying every other base on the server as revenge. It kicked off a chain of events that led to Anarchy Heroes becoming depopulated. I regret what happened during that time. We were too vengeful, and we griefed a lot of people that weren't necessarily responsible either. That summer, I would come back to 2B2T and build more DonFuer bases, as well as launch an official Discord for the group where we would begin recruiting players. Among these players would be Dragonworm and Director Johnson, who would both later become elders in the group. We had a lot of bases during this time period, and we were growing fast. But we weren't careful with who we recruited. And on top of this, I didn't really know what I was doing. So towards the beginning of 2018, we banned several of our players over what were actually pretty minor issues, and the drama spiraled out of control. 2B2T was a very toxic place back then, and this experience rattled me enough that I decided to leave the server and take DonFuer with me. This begins what I'm going to call the Dark Age. This is by far the most difficult time period in the history of the group. I was trying everything to turn it around. We would migrate to many different servers, building a new DonFuer base on each one, hoping that we would recruit members that we could carry with us to the next place. Unfortunately, this rarely worked, and there was a long, slow decline in membership for all of 2018 and 2019. We built DonFuer 14, 15, 16, and 17, all with varying degrees of quality. But none of them were able to surpass the size of the bases we did on 2B. And we were getting plagued by insider attacks and griefers who sometimes followed us from 2B2T. In the summer of 2019, the group reached an all-time low point, with only 6 members remaining. Myself, Dragonworm, Uplift Sage, Director Johnson, Wygood, and Fat Earther were the only members left. And with my favorite server, Anarchy Heroes, finally shutting down, I decided it was time to move on. I gave the group to my friends and left to focus on college. However, in 2020, COVID shut everything down, and I suddenly had a lot of time on my hands, and kind of wanted to get back into Minecraft. To my surprise, Dragonworm and Uplift Sage had kept DonFuer alive, playing on a small Anarchy server called Destroy MC. But I didn't really want to play there. I had left 2B2T defeated, and I needed to return. I reached out to Hermeticlock, and I rejoined his group, the Spawn Masons. I would build a massive base with them that summer, but the group wasn't what I had remembered. They were racked by constant infighting, and Hermeticlock was no longer in charge. After only a few months, both me and him would leave the group in a dramatic fashion, destroying their last base and renaming it DonFuer 18 on the way out. From there, I was welcomed back into the DonFuer leadership and would relaunch DonFuer on 2B2T with Dragonworm, leaving the Destroy MC members to operate as an autonomous separate branch of the group, who would later go on to become the Phoenix Anarchy branch. We had a lot of good bases over 2021, DonFuer 20, DonFuer 21, and DonFuer 22. We even rebuilt DonFuer 10 and upgraded it so that it was better than ever. We also started to expand to other Minecraft servers, following the same autonomous model that was working for DMC. We expanded to Stoneworks, 9B90, and later on, eventually, Constantium. Each branch would have its own leadership team that would operate completely separately from the 2B2T members. But towards the end of the year, we had become kind of stagnant on 2B2T with only 60 members. Recruitment through the website was very slow, and we did an awful job with advertising how to join our public Discord. I had met a player named Bad Company recently who had a lot of experience managing gaming communities, and in early 2022, I set him loose to overhaul our public Discord. We made applications easy and fast. We also stepped up our advertising and recruitment following his advice. One of our members, Fish, invited hundreds and hundreds of people to the server. We also made some structural changes to how leadership and branch management worked. Each branch of the group could now communicate to each other. Ranks would not transfer between branches, but members of other branches would get preferred status when it came to applications. Applications could be accepted or denied automatically with just the click of a button. And what followed was the second golden age, the most wild period of growth in the group's history. During the summer of 2022, we were being targeted heavily by griefers. And yet despite that, despite the nearly daily griefs of our recruit bases, our membership grew from 60 members to over 200 in just 3 months. By the end of July, DonFuer was the largest group on 2B2T, and we were now ready to start taking on some serious projects. We rebuilt Aureus City, one of the server's most famous bases, in just a week. We built DonFuer 25, and countless mid-rank and scout bases. We also started appointing lots of new elders, Volker, Nate, Lucan, and A1. Even in 2023, DonFuer easily bounced back from the Connect 4 drama, a controversy that would have destroyed most groups, releasing all these new bases: the Blue Castle, Steamfuer, Glenlivet, Futurefear, and the Dark Mirror. Just a few months later, we've got a thriving Constantium branch, and we've got amazing projects still in the works on 2B2T, even past the 1.19 update. I left 2B2T in 2018 defeated, and I took a serious gamble by coming back. But I won. So that brings us to today, the day DonFuer turns 10 years old. For me, when I think of Minecraft, I think of DonFuer. They are inexplicably linked. I just want to thank everyone so much for coming with me along this journey. DonFuer has had thousands of unique individuals join the server over these years and hundreds of bases. To all the DonFuer members out there, all of us together built this. You are part of the story, and we are building the future together. Thank you so much for being my friends, and here's to many more adventures.